Information of state capture criminals and people that have disrespected the South African Constitution. Cyril Ramaphosa has failed the most important test. In fact, he has postponed a new dawn by putting the interests of factions of the ANC above those of the country. So even under him, ANC is going to come first, particularly its factions and not the interests of the country. We are really rejecting, in particular, of Malusi Gigaba. Malusi Gigaba was the architect of state capture. In fact, his crimes come close to treason because he facilitated the handing over of state-owned companies, state decisions, cabinet decisions to a foreign national family. But Tabile Dlamini, after collapsing the social grant system, is given a promotion into the presidency. Nomvula Mokonyane is moved to one of the most important recovering departments after efforts of the parliamentary committee to try and stabilize not only the SABC but other institutions. And she comes after failing to be a minister of communication. So we must reject this as seriously a disaster.
Let's look at what took place before. A little bit earlier on, we were looking at some social media reaction ahead of the cabinet reshuffle, and we saw the CIC, Julius Malema, leader of the EFF, tweeting almost the exact list. Where does the EFF get the information? How did you know who was going to be on that list?
Well, I couldn't tell you our sources, otherwise we wouldn't get that information again. What is important here is that you couldn't lead a political party and become an efficient opposition if you couldn't get information, particularly information about crucial decisions like who's going to preside over the resources of our country as cabinet. Mm-hmm. I mean, what is significant here, one thing that is a positive development is the changes in the finance ministry. We want to welcome the appointment of Nhlanhla Nene. It's a reaffirmation of African leadership, because there's a big perception out there that African people, black people, but in particular African, can't preside over complex economies like South Africa with its treasury. That there is an affirmation of Africanness and of blackness as well. We must welcome it, but otherwise these people are standing on a house on its knees that is trapped in kleptocratic power beyond recovery. It's time the people of South Africa really realize that there's no future of constitutionalism, of anti-corruption with the ANC.
Looking at the announcement as well, is that tomorrow, of course, there'll be this debate around land, the issue around land and land expropriation without compensation. And you look at the former minister, Cyril Ramaphosa, who was in that Department of Land Reforms. He's now been shifted away from that department, which many people may argue has utterly failed. And now he becomes a Minister of Water Affairs, considering the critical crisis that the country finds itself in on this issue of water. Just your reaction to that.
You know what's nice tonight? I'm at the SABC looking at two young people. It's like a beautiful thing. Because every time you watched, not the SABC, but many channels, you found old energy. That's what that cabinet is. People who have been recycled and recycled and recycled. What difference are they? What difference is Cyril Ramaphosa, Jeff Khatebe, Naledi Pandor? They've been there since 1994. The ANC does not have energy. It does not have new people with new ideas that are going to take this country to better heights. And that's really one of the biggest failures about this cabinet reshuffle. It is a statement of no confidence in the youth. And it must be regarded like that. It is a statement of no confidence. And by the way, as you know, 60%, close to 60% of the voting constituency next year is going to be young people. Mm-hmm. So they should take cue from the SABC. He should have taken cue from this panel tonight of young energy that is going to bring young people into the cabinet.
I would have accepted. Prof, I want to bring you in here. Let's look at this, because we discussed it earlier, this thing of recycling ministers. We've seen before, as Dr. Ndlozi says, that, recycling old energy. Your take on it, isn't it time for fresh faces?
I certainly think so, but then also I look at it as political analyst, not as a political party. But there is, for any political party then, who is investing into the future, to use the cliche, they have to bring in new blood. And the only new person who was in contention here was probably Ronald Lamola, and he was now deployed in a permanent position to Luthuli House. And yes, give or take the parts of that history there, but instead of bringing that, and I agree, this is an opportunity for much more renewal that has been wasted. But as political analyst, I have to see what the ANC is trying to do. And this is a top, high-level, elite, bargaining, compromise position, trying to keep the factions aligned and happy with the new leadership, trying to pull them over into the new leadership. It's really the ANC at this stage, as we've seen in the NEC and in the NWC, is an alliance of factions. It's still a very fragile political party after the years of Zumaism and other things that went wrong before then. And that is what they're trying to do now, to pull those factions together. So this is an elite compromise, and they hope in due course it will broaden to bring more legitimacy.
But just considering what Dr. Ndlozi is saying about 60% of the electorate next year being young people, how do you really attract young people when your entire makeup, when the people who represent the party are all just old people? Just look at the ANC's entire top six, for instance.
Many young people, with the exact proportions I wouldn't know, but are also really into the issue of getting clean government and better government. And if the ANC, on the basis of this reshuffle, and I'm not sure, I am sure it doesn't go all the way, but if they can make a case and say we're getting there, look, we have ousted the highly corrupt, the highly captured, there is definitely space for further improvement. But young people are also impressed with those sentiments of getting clean and better government in it. But yes, young faces will certainly help make a difference, but just young faces in own right do not make that difference either.
And that's a valid point. I'd like us to bring in Prof. Kotse, who joins us from our Pretoria studios. Prof. Kotse, thanks for joining us again. Let's look at this issue that we're discussing now of a cabinet that is partly recycled.
Yes, I fully agree with the sentiments that, as I've said earlier on, it is actually not a new cabinet. It is a reconfigured cabinet. It's a reshuffled cabinet. And many of the persons who have been appointed tonight again, like Naledi Pandor, like Malusi Gigaba,